everybody. Thank you so much for joining today. So I wanted to start off by introducing myself. My name is Jeff Miller. I am here in New York. I am the COO and head of GMAT Instruction at Target Test Prep. So I've been a part of Target Test Prep for, many years now, more than I can probably count. So I've seen Target Test Prep grow into what it is today, and we're super excited to be helping out the GMAT Club community. You guys have been great. I know a lot of you are currently using our course, and many of you probably will in the future. So today we're going to do some really cool quant stuff, but first I want to talk a little bit about Target Test Prep. And just a quick correction on the video, it's the COO. Scott is the CEO of TTP, just so you guys are aware. But let's get into the presentation. As I said, we're going to do a little bit about TTP, so you know more about Target Test Prep. And then we're going to get into some really, really cool quant stuff. And then we can do some question and answer. So this is going to be really laid back, and hopefully, you guys can learn a thing or two, get some questions answered, and have a little bit of fun. So let me get into the presentation here. Let's see. Okay, perfect. All right, so today's webinar is a quant-based webinar. We are going to talk about some strategies that can help you score a top quant score of Q51 on the GMAT. Specifically, it's going to be related to data sufficiency, which is perhaps everybody's favorite or least favorite question on the GMAT, which we'll talk about very soon. All right, so a little bit about Target Test Prep. So as you guys know, we've been around for a while. We've been partners with GMAT Club for about the last 4 years. Our GMAT Club students have had a ton of success, as have our other students. And those specifically on GMAT Club have been proud to submit their reviews of how they've done. As you can see, we are the only test prep company with more than 350 reviews and with a 5-star rating. So we're super proud of that. I'm sure you see us on the forum all the time. We work tirelessly for our students. We really want you guys to be successful, and we've put so much into the course of Target Test Prep. So, look, every time we see a favorable review, it makes us incredibly happy, because we know the hard work that we put in is really paying off. And it's exciting too, because the GMAT it has such serious implications, because by getting a great GMAT score, it can open up just so many windows, and we know this. And so it's super cool too to see our students not only do well in the GMAT, but then go on to do great things in business school, and even cooler, a lot of times when we get to connect with them even when they get out of business school and see some of the cool things they've done. As far as how students do, on the GMAT from GMAT Club, the average score of all of those students is a 720 for verified students on GMAT Club. Our average quant score is great. It's a 48. Our average verbal is a 41. What's even better is that verbal 41 will probably increase very soon, as our full verbal course is going to be live around July. Right now we have full sentence correction, full critical reasoning. And what's super cool is we've had, I believe, 8 or 9 verbal 51 scores, which is like insanity. So it's always exciting to see that as well. Regarding, a lot of these verified reviews, as you can see, we do have a lot of high performing students. It doesn't mean that if you need a 650 that Target Test Prep wouldn't be great for you. It still would. The cool thing is our study plans are adaptable to your score goal. But for many of you, I know you want to knock the GMAT out of the park, and we have some really, really high scores, starting with 720, 730, 740, that's a lot of verified scores in that range. And even to see 24 verified scores at a 760 and even 6 at a 780, that's really cool to see as well. And I imagine that only kind of going up in the future. And we also recently had a really cool success story, which has been documented on GMAT Club. And I believe she's going to do a interview at some point live here on YouTube. She went, I believe, from a 250 to a 780. So, I mean, that story was incredible, and you guys can definitely read about it in the Share Your GMAT Experience section on GMAT Club. And then this is just a couple reviews. We have lots of them. If you're curious about the course, certainly go through them, read what people have to say. I mean, I always say that when you read reviews, try to find reviews from people who are kind of in your shoes, in your situation, whether you're at a 600 and you've been studying for a year and need to get to a 740, or you're at a 680 but need to get to a 760. Like, really spend time reading through these things and make sure that, you think whatever course you're selecting, fits your needs. And of course, always sign up for trials. The cool thing we really love about TTP is we offer a full access trial. It's 5 days. Most courses, I don't think, do offer such a full access trial. We do it because we want you to see the course. We want you to feel the course, and we want you to get immersed into the course. By, limiting what you can do in the trial, we feel like you wouldn't be able to see the full power of it. So, if you're curious about target test prep, like, for sure, sign up for the trial. All right. One last thing. I mean, this goes without saying. I've mentioned that I love the course. The course has been great. As such, we've had a lot of great feedback from our students on various places. GMAT Club, of course, being one of them, but you can see across the board, MBA Insight, Beat the GMAT. We had a really cool survey on poets and quants. I think it was about a year ago, where they did an anonymous survey, and we came in #1, I believe, in 95% of the categories that they had listed. So that, was really cool too. So anyway, the best thing you can do, as I said, if you're interested in TTP, get the trial, check out the course, and I think you'll really love it. So I know you guys came today to do some math, so here we are. Now, scoring a Q51 on the GMAT is no joke. It's not easy. If you're on GMAT Club, you've probably seen a fair amount of people mention that they got a Q51. So it may seem more commonplace than it actually is. So if you're currently scoring a Quant 40 or Quant 45 or even a Quant 48, don't beat yourself up over it. A Q51 is the top quant score for a reason, and it takes a really, really good day on top of a lot of great knowledge to successfully hit that mark. I do firmly believe that it can be done by pretty much anyone if you give yourself the right timeline, if you give yourself the right study materials, you work smart, you don't rush the process, and then again, you have a heck of a day on the GMAT. So today, hopefully, can be some building blocks to getting towards that score. And hey, if you don't need a Q51, there's still a ton you're going to be able to learn from today's webinar. This is one of my favorite topics. So the topic of today is not just data sufficiency. It's really about data sufficiency traps, right? Now, what's super interesting about data sufficiency questions versus problem solving, as you know, in a problem solving question, you have to solve it all the way out. You have no choice, right? They're going to give you a problem. What is the value of X? What is the value of N? Whatever. You have to come up with a full answer, right? You don't have a choice. Well, in data sufficiency, it's a little bit different. Now, if any of you are new test takers here, the thing with data sufficiency is that you're probably going to be a little intimidated by them right off the bat. Why? Because it's an unfamiliar question type. When I started off with my GMAT prep, I said, what is this data sufficiency thing? I don't understand it. I don't know why it's here. But then little by little, you say to yourself, well, these aren't so bad because I don't actually have to solve them out. Well, that's pretty cool, right? Because if you can stop when you know you have sufficiency, well, that's going to make things very efficient and very quick sometimes in data sufficiency questions. In fact, one of the things we talk about in the course, and we have a blog on this with timing on the GMAT, is if you need to organically catch up on time rather than kind of skipping through questions and eliminating them without reading them, data sufficiency is a really great way to catch up on time. And you're going to see that here today. We're going to talk about a very specific trap. I thought about giving away what that trap is, but then again, I would give away a lot of what I want to teach. You guys may figure it out really soon. But the first thing I want everyone to do as we go through these questions is I'm going to give you guys a minute or two to solve each one, and then we're going to discuss it. You can put your answer in the chat box. For anyone new to the GMAT, keep in mind these all are, well, there's going to be one non-data sufficiency question, but the majority will be data sufficiency. And you'll see I don't have the answers here because you should have the data sufficiency answers memorized. So if you're wondering where the answers are, that is why you don't see them. So I'm going to give everyone a minute or two. As you get your answer, I want you to put it in the chat box, and then we will discuss the solution to this problem. There's going to be a string of questions that are going to build based on this trap that I want to teach everyone. So I'll give you guys a minute, and as you start putting the answers in the chat box, I will start explaining and kind of going through the solution here. Oh, wow. Okay, I was clicked on the wrong part of the chat. Okay. Many answers already. And wow, many questions already. All right, now keep in mind, guys, we will have Q&A at the end too. So I won't, I'll try to answer those questions at the end. And in fact, maybe save those questions for the end because I think there's going to be a lot of things in the chat, so I'll probably miss them. All right, you guys crushed this question. It wasn't an insanely difficult question, but I will tell you there is a trap here. And for anyone new to the GMAT, it's quite possible that you would look at this question and you would say to yourself, well, I need to know the value of K, and I have an equation right off the bat where I have two variables in one equation. And let me go back to the question itself. One second, so I can draw a little bit here. So you may say that you think that you may need the two statements, right? Now, the reason you may think that if you're somewhat new to the GMAT is you may just be thinking this from a regular algebraic perspective, right? Like, okay, what do we always teach? Two variables, two equations. Well, if I look at this without understanding the strategies of data sufficiency, I say, oh, well, I can just take 10, I can plug it in here for n, and then I have m plus 10 is equal to 10. Oh, okay, well, then I know m is 0. So if I know m is 0 and I know n is 10, well, I know this, and so I can get that. Well, the GMAT is much trickier than that, but I will tell you that their goal is to try to trap you into thinking, heck, I'm going to need those two statements to get an answer. But what you soon see is that, as you guys basically did see, you don't. You can rearrange statement 2 to get the fact, well, you can rearrange the first statement first and foremost to get the fact that K is equal to m minus n, and then you can do the same thing in statement 2, m minus n is equal to negative 10. Now, I agree that this question was pretty simple, and you guys did really well on it, for sure. But when you're in the heat of the GMAT, you may look at a question like this, and your mind may immediately default to C, right? And you need to be careful in doing that because, again, this is a clear trap. Now, a way to kind of tell that they're trapping you is if you look at this and without doing any work, you say to yourself, okay, the answer is clearly C because I have what I need. That's usually a telltale sign that you may be falling for a trap. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean to stop there, right? And it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to just take a guess and say it's B. You can do the work and figure it out, but you want to start having these feelings and you want to start feeling like the people making these questions. And if you can do that, like you're going to be in really good shape on the GMAT because you're going to know when you're getting trapped before you even get trapped. And that is a really, really cool skill to have. And if you can get that down, you're going to be in a really, really good spot on the GMAT. Okay, so let's try this next one. Let's see what you guys can do here. I'll click back to see as you guys are putting in answer choices. If you guys need me to go back to the full screen, just tell me. Now, for those of you who are putting answers into the chat box, would you say that this question was easier than the previous question or on a similar plane as the previous question? Similar level. Now, would you guys say it was on a similar level for those of you because you know what I'm teaching right now? Because obviously I've foreshadowed what's happening here. So I'm wondering if in a vacuum, this question would be hard. If I came out of the gate with this question, would it be a little bit harder? I mean, that may be an obvious answer. You know what I'm teaching. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I would say this one does take a little bit more time. And yes, that is the reason we can't get around that because I'm here to teach a specific type of problem and skill. So look, we're in another situation, and yeah, I'd say it's about a 600 level question. So we're in another situation. Let me get my screen up here, where okay, so there's like a couple things we can do here. We can go into this question and immediately simplify this, which I'm not against by any stretch. I think simplification is key. And let's say that's your move always, right? And that'd be fine. You're getting common denominators here. So you have 3 over 3. So 2 over n over 3 over 3x plus 2 over 3x. And then you're getting 2 over n over 5 over 3x. You guys can see where this is headed. 2 over n times 3x over 5. 6x over 5n is equal to what? Okay. That divisibility is really important because now you know that if you get these in terms of the same variables, boom, it cancels out and you are done. So you take 2n and you sub it in for x, and then you call it a day. You know that's going to work, right? and that's why statement 1 is sufficient. You go to statement 2, only knowing the value of n isn't helpful because you're still stuck with the x term, even if you plug in 1/2 for n, right? So again, immediate trap. Well, how do I know it's a trap? Well, if I look at my two statements and I put pen down and I say, could I answer this without doing any work and say that the answer is C? Well, the answer would be yes, because all I have to say is, oh, n is 1/2. I plug that into statement 1, I get x. If I know n and I know x and I plug that into the given statement, I know s. But wait a minute, that's too easy, right? Because if they're doing that, what are they really testing you on? And that's what you always have to ask yourself. What are they testing me on in this question? Are they testing me on my ability to look at the fact that I can plug in 1/2 for n and therefore get x and therefore say the answer is C? Well, if that's really what they're testing, then heck, this GMAT thing isn't so bad, right? So be careful. And again, I know a lot of you guys got this right. You got it right because of what I'm teaching you here today, but take this mindset and bring it with you to the GMAT. Bring it with you to your practice exams. I'm telling you, it's so fun to start to beat them at their own game, and that you're not going to have more fun than that. When you see the field the way you need to see it, this all opens up to you and becomes very easy. Now, with this said, oh, my pen's going wild here. With this said, there's something pretty cool I want to show you guys just from a data sufficiency perspective and how you could come up with the answer of A without even doing any work here. So check this out. Get my pen back. So, okay, so I'm going to list out the data sufficiency answer choices, A, B, C, D, and E, right? Okay. Now, this is assuming you can come into this question and recognize that you're dealing with a trap, right? Okay. So if you recognize, sorry, I just had to fix that. If you recognize right off the bat, I'm probably getting trapped here, what that means is you can eliminate C as an answer. And let's say you just have 10 seconds to deal with this. Let's say you don't have time to go through, you don't have time to simplify, you don't have time to plug in, all that stuff. Well, you look at this and you're like, all right, I know they're trapping me here. I'm 98.5% certain, so I'm going to say C isn't the answer, right? Well, along with that, you also know that if you had to plug in 1/2 for n, you could get x and you could solve the question. So there's no way E is the answer, right? So now you're down to 3 possible answers. Okay, well, of the 2 statements, is there one that you can say for sure does not work? You can. Statement 2, right? Because even if you plug in 1/2 for n, you're still stuck with your x terms. So by eliminating statement 2, you're eliminating D and you're keeping an answer of A. Now, am I saying in any stretch of the word to do this? Like if you have the time on the GMAT? I mean, no, probably not. But what I'm saying is if you don't have the time and you have to rush, it's a pretty cool way to get through this question, I think, and in questions like this. Okay, cool. So let's move on to the next question. And I have a feeling this is going to get progressively harder. So it looks like there's no questions waiting for me. So we'll go back to the PowerPoint here. Okay. Now, oops, wrong question. Okay. I'll give you guys a minute or two on this one, and then we will discuss. I'm going to go back to the screen, see what you guys are doing. As you guys put in answers, as you have answers, put them in, but no rush. And if you guys need me to switch back, you can tell me, but okay. Some answers coming in. You guys are sure the answer's not C, right? Be kind of evil for me to give you a C answer after teaching this trap. Well, see, some of you put in C. Okay, this is great. Now, as you guys are answering this question, and look, here's a really cool thing too. If any of you don't know how to answer this from a perspective of exponents, and you're saying, oh my gosh, like what's happening with these exponents, I almost want you to mute me and do the same exact thing I did in the last question where you write A, B, C, D out, and then you go through those steps in your head. And is this a C trap? If it is, what can I eliminate? Okay, if I eliminate these, what statement definitely doesn't work? And then see if you can come up with an answer. That would be a super cool way to deal with this. And that is a super cool way to get around a data sufficiency question, even if you don't know the content tested in the question. Super, super, super cool. Remember, think like the test maker. All right, now, before I get into this, do you guys feel that this was harder than the first two questions or in a similar plane as the first two questions? I'm guessing most of you will say harder, if I had to guess. It certainly looks harder. Any thoughts on that? Harder and trickier, yes, harder. Okay, yeah, I mean, that's what I was thinking. But the cool thing, again, is that if you go and lean on the fact that, hey, this is a C trap through and through, and if we go through the steps of what we just talked about, you will see that this is a clear C trap. So what are they asking? Well, first of all, they're asking if B minus A, I'll write it up above the question, is at least 2 times the value of this, right? That's pretty nasty in its own right. I mean, it doesn't look great. But if you're trying to recognize that you're dealing with a trap, the first thing you say is, well, how easy would it be to say that the answer is C? And my gosh, it would be incredibly simple. You wouldn't even have to do any of this stuff. You would just leave this like that. Or heck, you wouldn't even have to write this out, because what are your variables? B, A, and N. If you know B, A, and N, you have an answer. It could be a yes answer. It could be a no answer. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. It's an answer, a complete answer. So how would you get that? Well, I would plug in 3 for N, and I'd plug in 3 for N. That would give me A, that would give me B, and I would have N, so the answer would be C. It's too easy. It doesn't test you on anything. It just tests you on your ability to plug in numbers into these complicated looking expressions and equations and solve. But again, that's not the GMAT. They're not going to test you on that. So you just have to continuously look out for that. And if you then recognize, okay, I'm dealing with the trap, then you know C is out. It's not going to be possible, which again means E is out, because as we just showed, using the statements together could get you an answer. It doesn't, but it could. And then, which statement definitely doesn't work? Well, statement 2 definitely doesn't work, because how, just knowing N is 3, could you get the value of B? Could you get the value of A? You can't. So B, gone. D, either statement, gone. The answer is A. Pretty cool, right? Now, if you had to do it out, which it's not fun to, and I think, I do think some of the times the GMAT will give you nastier equations in data sufficiency that they're baiting you to do all the way out. And by doing them all the way out, you may waste 2 or 3 minutes when maybe you could have had the answer in 30 seconds. So that's something really, really to think about. But if you were to plug all this stuff in, you'd get 3 to the n times 3 minus 2 to the n times 2. Is that greater than or equal to? And then you can distribute the 2. So you're going to get 2 times 3 to the n minus 2 times 2 to the n. And you'll notice if you were to add this to the right side, these two things would cancel. And then if you were to divide both sides by 3 to the n, these would cancel. So the new question would become, is 3 greater than or equal to 2? The answer is, of course, yes. But again, like it all boils down to the time you have on the test and how much time you're willing to give here. Because that's another consideration with all this stuff. You got to look at the time on the test. I'm just going to go back to the screen here. You got to look at the time on the test as, okay, it looks like all your questions have been answered here based on me doing this out. If you're ahead of the clock and you're like, man, I don't know if this is a C trap, okay, do what I just did, right? I mean, it doesn't hurt. You're only going to be more right. But if you're behind on the clock and you know it, let's say you're behind 3 minutes. You're like, man, I got to catch up 3 minutes, right? This would be a really good opportunity to catch up on time. Because you can kind of see, well, man, you'd have to recognize that it's a C trap, and then you could do what I just did. But these are the places where you catch up on time, not in a problem-solving question where you have to do it all the way out. You got to pick and choose your spots. If you're 3 minutes behind, you see this question, and you have a 70% chance that you are coming up with the fact that this is a C trap, I would say run with it and eliminate the proper answer choices and come up with the fact that the answer is A. But again, if you have the time, go through it, simplify, go through your steps, and come up with an answer. But look, this takes practice. This takes seeing a lot of these questions to understand where the trap is and where it isn't. It's very nuanced. Obviously, C is a correct answer on the GMAT. But to continue to reiterate my point, if you're stuck in a position where they're forcing you to not really do much work and get an answer of C, there's a good likelihood it's not. But you will need to practice this and recognize when you see it. Now, the nice thing is we're going to do 2 more questions. One of them is going to be problem solving. The last one is going to be data sufficiency. And I will tell you, we do teach this strategy in target test prep. We do have a lesson on the C trap where you have, multiple variables in one equation, but yet it's still solvable. So it is something we teach there too. Okay, so let me get back to the last 2 questions I want to do. Okay, this is a problem-solving question, but it has elements of what I would call a C trap. So I want to go through this and And then we're going to do another question. They're not fully related, but they're kind of related, and you'll see why in a second. So let me give you guys a couple minutes. This is, of course, a question that you have to do all the way out because it is problem solving. Let's see what your answer is. We will discuss this, and then we will see how this can relate to a data sufficiency question in a similar realm. All right, I'm going to switch back. You guys need me to go full screen again, tell me. And again, as you get your answer choices, plug them into the chat box. So obviously, we're not going to say there's a trap here because, I mean, I guess there's kind of a trap. You know, if someone looks at this question for the first time, I suppose the trap is they think there's a mistake here. They think there needs to be a second equation here. I mean, those could be traps. Okay, I see these answers coming in. I guess I'll ask in general, did you guys find this to be in a medium difficulty, easy, hard? I mean, clearly those who are getting the right answers, I'm probably assuming easy or medium. You also may have seen this question before, but any thoughts on where you thought the difficulty level lied here? Right, so medium-ish. I would say medium-ish. I mean, I can tell you the first time I saw this question, I was like, thought you needed two variables, two equations. What are they doing here? So, but once you get it, you get it. And the cool thing is, like anything, you're going to be looking out for these questions. I mean, I know the quant section is only 31 questions. You're not going to get 28 of these, but if you get one, heck, if you get two, I mean, that's great. That's a high percentage of only 31 questions. So it would be super cool to get a couple of these guys. So, okay, let's go through the solution here, and I'm going to kind of try to relate to how this is going to set up our final question of the day. Looks like pretty much all you guys got it right. So good job. Let's see here. Okay, so if any of you are taken aback by the fact that you only have one equation here, don't fret. It'll work out. Now, when reading through a question like this, especially in a data sufficiency sense, you know, you can recognize, well, wait a minute, my variables are going to be integer values, right? So if it was flipped and you were given the number of bananas and the number of apples, and you needed to then determine the total amount spent, this wouldn't be enough information more than likely, because you can have decimal values for pricing where you can't have decimal values for quantities of fruit. My point is just always recognize what your variables are. A telltale sign that this will work is that you know that you're dealing with integer values as opposed to decimal values. That's a big takeaway here. So you set this up, 0.7a plus 0.5b is equal to 6.3. Okay, I love getting rid of decimals because I don't like them. Okay, all right, well, interesting. 7 and 63 share a common factor. I can move it over. Keep in mind, at this point here, we know that we have to be able to get one value for A and one value for B. I mean, heck, at this point here, we have to know that. Otherwise, how would this problem exist? And I want you to store that in the back of your mind because it's going to come back up sooner rather than later. But there is a trick here that we can use that's effective in figuring out how to know what A and B are. And keep in mind, they were smart. They decided to ask you for the total number of apples and bananas the customer purchased, not a number of apples or a number of bananas. They did that because they don't want you plugging in the answer choices. They want you following this cool method where you're doing this, you're bringing the 7A over, you're factoring out the 7, you got a 9 minus A, you're dividing by 5, and then they're asking you, well, heck, how does this work? Well, does 7 go evenly? Does 5 divide 7 evenly? No, it doesn't. So 9, it must divide into 9 minus A, right? Well, what's the only value of A that's going to work here? It's 4. Okay, when A is 4, what is B? You plug back in, and you're going to get that B is 7. 4 plus 7 gives us our total of 11. And there you go. You call it a day. 11 is the answer. Now, I'll go back. Sure there's no questions from anyone. Looks like there's not. So yeah, this was a pretty cool question. I will say if you get a similar DS question, I don't think it will be more difficult. I think you're going to be able to recognize that the trap is here. And to be quite honest, having the knowledge that I just showed you here is only going to help further your ability to recognize, oh, this is really similar to that problem-solving question I did. So it very likely is a trap. Now, that's where our next question is going to come in. Although there's some slight differences, I love this question, love it. It's most fun to teach when I have a live audience like you guys, so we're going to have some fun with this one. So I'll give you guys a minute or two, and then we'll talk about this one, and then we'll move into Q&A. I'm going to move back to the other screen. If anyone needs me to go back, you can tell me. Okay, I see some answers flowing in. Put them in the chat box as you get them. And I have a very, very important question for you guys. Very important that you have to be honest with when I ask you. I want complete honesty. Okay? So if we're in the honest tree right now, and I ask you this question, before explaining to you guys why I was here and what I was teaching, if I were to give you this question, and assuming none of you have seen it, what would your answer have been to this question? Total honesty. What would have your answer been if this was the first slide you saw today, without any context of why I was giving you this question? All right, first honest person. If I did not know C-trap, I would have gone with C. There you go, another C. Anyone else who feels like being completely honest? It would have been C. Okay, fantastic. Well, this means that today has been very successful because you guys now are seeing the C-trap. Now, obviously, you have to take this and carry it on, right? Because you're going to move on with your prep. you're going to be doing other questions. The C-Trap is going to, I mean, luckily this webinar will be live on GMAT Club for eternity, so you guys can come back and look at this, make note cards, listen to it again, but it's really cool to see that you guys are picking up on this, but I want to see you guys be able to do this on the test. Now, I do want to get into one thing with this question, and what's interesting about this question, what really hurts people, so remember, the question before this, all right, so let's say A is the number of 23-cent pencils, and let's say B is the number of 21-cent. Okay. What kills people, and we'll just, I mean, statement one is statement one. There's nothing you can do with this. It's A plus B is 6. Now, the total value was 130 cents. So where people really get crushed on this question, especially when they relate it to the last one, they immediately look and they say, oh, well, let me see what I can factor out with 130. And the answer is nothing. There's nothing that factors out with 130. 23 does not share a common factor with 130 as its prime. 21 does not share a common factor with 130, not 7, not 3, nothing. Prime factor, that is. So you're stuck. Either you're going to plug and chug here. I mean, and look, you can cheat a little. You know that A plus B has to be 6. So if you're going to plug and chug, you need values of A and B that sum to 6. So like 1 and 5, 2 and 4. But I mean, man, that's going to take a while. 3 and 3, and then you got to do the reverse. 5 and 1, 4 and 2. So that's 5 times you have to plug in. I mean, you can use your knowledge of numbers to strategically choose the right ones, but I don't know. That seems like a lot of work. So this is a really big time to say, well, geez, for the answer to be C here, again, I had to employ 0 critical thinking skills, 0 math skills, pretty much. I mean, I guess translating, okay, but still, like, they're just not going to give you that question. I mean, it's too easy. So going back to what I said previously, okay, you're 78% certain that this is a C-trap. Well, heck, you probably want to run with it because you don't want to spend 4 minutes plugging in all of this junk and then coming up with an answer. I think, the move is, as you guys did here, and I can look at what you guys are saying in the chat, the move here would be to say that the answer here is B. Which I should put on the screen. Hold on. And I just see there's a question that popped up. Give me 1 second. I just want to put that B is the answer because there's only one value of A that's going to work, and there's only one value of B that's going to work to make 130. And if you had to prove it, sure, you could plug in the stuff from statement 1, do the algebra. You prove it. There's going to only be one value for A and one value for B. But if you know, and you're 99% certain or 78% certain or somewhere in that range that, hey, that's got to be the case, then you go with answer choice B. Sometimes they're going to throw you a bone and they're going to give you equations where you can factor out and you can do the same thing we did in the apples and bananas question. And if they do, I don't mind factoring out, dividing, and determining that there's only one value. But if I'm here, I'm calling it a day when I look at statement 2 and I write that out. I mean, 23 is a big number. 21 is a big number. So to add together multiples of 23 and 21, when A and B have to be integers, yeah, there's only going to be one combination of numbers that's going to get you 130. Now, if A was 2 and B, or excuse me, if 23 was changed to a 2 and 21 was changed to a 3, where you were dealing with much smaller numbers, okay, well, maybe there's multiple combinations of A and B. There probably is that can equal 130. So going back to the question, because I think it was a good one. Yes, we're sure that the total will be 6 because statement one is a factual piece of information. It can't say Martha bought a total of 6 pencils if she didn't buy a total of 6 pencils. Yeah, I mean, I think the numbers being, well, they're not all prime. There's only one prime number. It's 23. 21, of course, isn't prime in 130. I think the bigger thing is that they're big numbers. Like, they're big, bulky numbers. Like, if A is 1 and B is 1, 23 plus 21 is already 44. I mean, look, you're not that far off from 130 at that point. You see what I mean? Like, you don't have a lot of room. It's like trying to fit a couch in a doorway, right? There's not a lot of ways you're getting that couch in the door. And sometimes the couch isn't even fitting in the door. That's kind of like what's happening here with these numbers. Like, there just can't logically be many ways you can combine a multiple of 23 and a multiple of 21 and get 130. There's just not. And look, play around on a calculator, play around with numbers. You'll start to see that. But just be aware that they're not always going to give you the ability to do the nice factoring out and doing it out very cleanly the way we did with the apples and bananas. All right, well, we're getting up to the end of it. I don't even know if we have time for Q&A. Can there be a 0 here? It's a good question. Well, it wouldn't affect it here because there's 23 can't divide into 130 and nor can 21. But I'm just trying to read the stem. I mean, the short answer is yes, it's possible. Can you assume that there is one combination? Well, yeah, based on the fact that this is a seed trap, I think you can. All right, guys, I think we got a wrap here, so we will not be doing Q&A, but I'd be happy to come back at some point, do some more quant with you guys, and hopefully have time to answer questions. I think we're getting close to wrapping up here, so you guys just tell me when we have to sign off. All right, we may have time for one more question. Let's see. Oh, about this being 0? Yeah, it would have to, 0 could work in some of these questions. They would have to specify that more than one pencil of each type was bought if 0 was not a possibility. So I guess I could have used 0 and 6 as well, even though those they don't work here. Yes, I wish it was longer too. I can come back, guys, and we can do another one. Doesn't necessarily have to be on data sufficiency. There's a lot of cool topics we could do. Number properties is one of my favorites. Combinations and permutations is one of my favorites. Probability is one of my favorites. So yeah, definitely a lot of good stuff we can do. Okay, well, I think we need to start wrapping up. Are there any other last minute questions here that anyone has? And we've done all the quant we're going to do for today. You can't, well, they wouldn't give a similar question like this in problem solving. You would only be able to factor out. So how to get a quick answer would be the way we did the other question, which would be factoring out and stuff like that. You're at a Q47 level. Well, Q47 is a really good point to be at with quant. What can you do in a month? I think doing a lot of topical practice where you're doing, let's say, 100 number property questions, 80 rate questions. And in doing so, you're finding very granular weaknesses that you maybe don't even know you have. And then you're going to your prep materials and you're using those to attack those weaknesses. So, I think that's something we tell people to do with the TTP course all the time because we have, almost 4,000 questions. So, you can go in and do 100 number property questions. You can do 90 rate questions or 60 overlapping set questions. And that's a really good way to learn, especially when the test is only testing you on 31 questions. It's, you want to be prepared in all areas. You don't want to play a game of roulette when you sit for the GMAT. So you just need to be as thorough as possible. It's difficult to say how many correct questions you need to get a 51 because, look, there's experimental questions. You don't know when they're experimental, right? So, if you get lucky and the majority of the questions you get wrong are the experimental ones, then yeah, you'll have a great shot at hitting Q51. The other thing too is I wouldn't worry about that because you don't know in real time what you're getting right and wrong. You just know that you're trying to do the best you can in the question in front of you. So never try to think how you're doing on the GMAT. The TTP course is on sale, so yeah, you wouldn't even need a discount right now. We are running a sale. I think Q36 to Q45 in 2 weeks is going to be tough. I mean, you can work your butt off, but I always tell people never set yourself up to be in a losing situation with the GMAT. Fact is, if you need more time, give yourself more time. Target test prep, we're pushing to get reading comp up in July. As it is ready and available, we're going to be starting to put it up in pieces so you guys can start it, pretty much right away. What's coming in July is not a new verbal course. Target test prep has a full critical reasoning and sentence correction course. What is coming in July is just reading comprehension. But students are actively using verbal for target test prep. They're loving it. It's integrated into the study plan. So yeah, I mean, we basically have a full course. For those who are needing RC help, they generally will use the official guide to work through reading comp after completing critical reasoning in TTP, since there is some carryover between the skills between those topics. Any other questions? And just so you guys know, if you aren't familiar with target test prep, we do have a trial. It's 5 days, it's $1. I know I mentioned that at the beginning, but for anyone who got here late, this is the deal. 5 days, full access. So sign up for the trial when you have time to really get into it. We have a study plan. Oh, very important. You are not auto billed. People ask that all the time because it is $1, but you will not be auto billed. It just expires after 5 days, and then you get the opportunity to sign up for a full plan. How many hours? We have a lot of videos. I mean, we have over 1,200 now. They are solution videos, which are pretty cool in our chapters. I mean, it's many hours of videos. I don't know if I have an exact amount, but I can tell you there's about 1,200 plus videos on the course. Your exam is tomorrow. I would say go chill out and stop doing GMAT stuff and rest and look at your flashcards, get a good night of sleep. I'm not sure what time it is for you right now, but for sure, relax. One time before before my GMAT, I went to a movie by myself. It was the only time I've done that. It was a great day. I went to a movie theater all by myself. I enjoyed that. Yes, close the webinar and get some sleep. All right, I think we're about ready to wrap this thing up. But yeah, this was really fun, guys. And I will come back. I will do this again. We do offer target test prep webinars, so check out the banner ad on the top of GMAT Club. You can sign up for those as well. And looking forward to seeing you guys again soon. All right, guys. We will talk later.